Hey, Ryan.
Hi.
You know about religion.
This feels like a conversation that we should have had long ago.
Like
Are
at
you
the
sure we're
beginning.
still doing the podcast?
This is
Are you about to tell me something that's going to change a lot of things between us?
hopefully yes. Hopefully yes. Hopefully I'm gonna tell you lots of things that are gonna change lots of things.
Okay. I know some stuff about religion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say? This is gonna be a divisive episode.
Can't wait.
What would you say the purpose of religion is?
To make people feel better about their horrible choices.
I love it. I love it already.
To make... I honestly, I think it's...
Yeah, honest answer.
I really do think it's something that people believe in so that they feel better about themselves and the things that they think. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, actually, this is so weird because I was just reading about this today. There's a NFL commentator. His name is Tony Dungy, and he used to be a head coach. He coached Peyton Manning. You know who that is?
Of Eli and Peyton Manning.
Exactly.
Indeed.
He's a very religious man, and he was one of the speakers at this March for Life something or other that just happened recently, and he's against abortion and LGBTQ rights and things like that. And it's all like his beliefs are, his stances on those particular issues are rooted in his Christianity.
Supposedly.
Right, exactly. And so that, like, he's known as a nice guy, and his like public image is a nice guy, but these things have sort of, people are saying that they're showing his true colors and how he's not necessarily a nice guy because he believes things that are just not true.
Yeah. Oh, we're talking about the religion part, right?
Well, all of it, I guess. You know what I mean? But it's
I
like
do.
it's an excuse for people to act horribly in a lot of cases.
Would you say there are any benefits to religion? Organized religion specifically?
Oh, sure there are, like the potlucks. The Christmas pageants. No, I think, well, again,
That might be
I
a
think
wholly
the
unique
benefits
answer.
are very selfish and inward, you know? The benefits for somebody believing in something are, if I do this, I am promised an eternity of paradise.
That's a really great segue into our topic, which is cargo cults.
Oh, you don't even know.
Oh, cool. Okay, this is the one. I
This is the
saw
one.
that topic on the list and I was like, what the fuck is that?
Oh, did you not look it up at
No,
all?
I thought, I was like, okay, cargo, like shipping containers.
Close. Uh-huh.
Really?
Sorta. Yeah.
And how, I don't know. I was just like racing through my brain about.
Oh, so we're like total square one on this topic. Like,
Yeah,
you
100%.
have never heard of cargo cults before?
No,
Truly?
really.
You know what a cult is?
Yeah.
How would you separate?
I used to be ahead of one for a little while.
I thought you were still having one. Cult of one. With a devoted devotee.
No, can you imagine though? That'd be crazy.
Yeah. Yes, I can. You're charismatic.
But I don't like attention.
No, but the best cult leaders are subtle about it. You know?
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh, for sure.
Oh.
Would you say there's a difference between a cult and an organized religion?
Not a lot.
Taxpayer status.
But you know, I don't want to. I also don't want to come across as like shitting on religion because it's fashionable to do that.
You
know
think
what
it's
I mean?
fashionable to do that?
I do a little bit. I think it's easy. Also, it's super easy to do that. I think there's value in religion. Also,
Yeah.
like because how many times you hear about people genuinely turning their lives around because they believe in this thing and end up doing really good things with themselves, even if it's just good for them and their family, meaning like, I'm going to stop committing crimes because this is now what I believe in. This person who is the leader of this church wouldn't do this, so I'm not going to do this. And that is good for society. Right?
Yes. That's a perfect link into... Do you know who Richard Dawkins is? Mm-hmm. Does that name sound familiar? He's one of like my first influences when it comes to atheism and just skepticism of religion in general. He's a very famous atheist and scientist proponent. He wrote that religion, the theory of religion, it's an accidental byproduct or a misfiring of something useful.
I like that.
And like one thing he talks about a lot is how like memes, before we use the word the way we use it today, but it's still the same definition. Religious memes, humans are particularly susceptible to them, and they can spread like little mind viruses across societies because they become really easy to grasp frameworks for people to identify with, to use for how they live their life. And he makes the point that if you were to ask, you know, just a random swath of people, if there was no God to judge them or no heaven that they could or couldn't get into as a result of their actions, would they still randomly kill or murder,
Yeah,
rape,
right.
you know, steal things? Most people would say no.
Right.
And the path of history would suggest that societies as a whole lean towards liberalism as time goes on, regardless of what religion is dominant in a society. And more importantly, that religious leaders will reinterpret their religious texts to reflect those societal values, to become more liberal. And we see this in how Christians, for example, will pick and choose which parts of the Bible apply to them or don't, depending on how modern their community is or their interpretation of that is.
Yeah.
And it's reflective of the fact that religion can suit the needs of the people who either are exploiting people as a result of their interpretation or are providing comfort to people who are using that as their framework.
Yeah.
A cargo cult is a homegrown religion brought up from colonialism and imperialism, and it's specifically tied to World War II.
Okay. Well, you're gonna have to break it down more.
Yeah.
Because I have lots of questions, but I want them to be more thought out before I ask them.
Yeah. And I'm gonna drop the first name of the cargo cult that I want to talk about. It's called the John Frum cult.
Okay.
John, like John, Frum, Frum, sometimes Frumm. And some people think it's originated as John from America. John being the deity that these cults worship as an American GI that dropped cargo onto these islands in the Pacific during World War II. And now they worship him.
Oh, okay. So, sorry. I got to back up maybe to the beginning of that because I'm confused now. Are cargo cults something that of a phenomenon outside of the U.S. or in the U.S.?
Oh, yeah. So not in the U.S. at all.
Okay.
It's an extrapolation of military involvement in the Pacific Theater in World War II.
Okay.
And as a result of all of the equipment and supplies and technological advancements that were on display to communities and societies that were in no way on the same playing field in terms of technological advancement, came to worship
so
the individuals.
Okay, it's like when you hear about those like missionaries or whatever going to some sort of going into a culture where they've never seen a white person, for example, and they're like, they have no idea what they're looking at. Something similar to that, where it's just this massive influx of technology and
new ideas.
Right. All at once. Out
of nowhere. And then imagine the war ends and these shockingly powerful groups of people suddenly, for the most part, disappear, leaving behind their Coca-Cola bottles.
Yeah.
And your community is desperately trying to get them back.
Right.
What do? You don't even know.
Nice.
It's a long intro.
That was a long intro.
It's a complicated topic to introduce because it has levels of like development, like world development, like developing countries, developing communities, which is kind of a taboo topic to talk about. Because there's value to societies regardless of what their technological advancements are, right?
Yeah.
It's just a wholly unique situation that was created by introducing these crazy situations for these communities. I'm specifically talking about like Fiji, Vanuatu, Papua New Guinea, like those islands.
I love Vanuatu.
Don't you?
Yeah. I don't know.
Volcanoes, baby. Yeah.
Okay. Can I stop again?
Yeah.
And just so that I understand it so far. So, these are exclusive to outside the U.S., specifically areas that were affected by World War II, like the Pacific area.
Yeah, very specifically.
The Pacific Theater, I guess, is what you would.
Yeah.
By cultures that have never been exposed to Western anything.
Or very minimal
before.
exposure. And I say Western, the Japanese Imperial Army also had an influence on the establishment of cargo cults because, of course, they had their own airdrops of supplies, and established their own air bases on islands like those. And so there was an influence had by Eastern societies as well. But Western societies, or the Western military powers are the ones that people are usually referencing when they're talking about what the cargo cults are worshiping.
Okay. And then because this is probably, well, tell me if I'm if you're going to get to this later, but the term cult, that insinuates something like Jonestown.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
Are we talking about that?
Yeah,
too?
we're kind of talking about that. I mean,
well, I get because the way that you just described it, I'm thinking like, oh, okay, they've built this sort of religion around these things, and it's maybe harmless in that way. Cult feels nefarious.
Yeah.
when you use the word cult, it feels manipulative and dangerous.
And there's some
So-
divisiveness about whether or not the people who have perpetuated these groups had nefarious means.
Okay, so that was another question I had, is it is perpetuated by an individual or individuals?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not just, it was like a phenomenon thing that fell from the sky, and then the culture that found it started worshiping it. It was actually people.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like, it's always people, right? It's always fucking people that are doing this to each other. But the phenomenon, although, like, specifically concentrated in the time, like, right during the war and directly after the war, dropped off in popularity after a little while. There are still cargo cults that are still active to this day across those islands. So I'm gonna lay it out to you, like,
Okay.
how this sort of stuff came about, right?
Okay.
So when both sides would be airdropping or airlifting to airstrips their supplies and troops onto the islands, it meant drastic changes to the lifestyles of these islanders, whose communities and customs were sometimes, like, torn apart, literally, by the violence of the war. And then you throw some Coca-Cola at that bad boy. Hard to resist.
Everybody's all hopped up.
They're like,
anyway.
what?
Yeah.
And that's before they took the cocaine out of it,
Right.
Yeah. But truly, like, think about, like, manufactured clothing, medicine, new materials like metals to build things with, canned food, weapons, all things that were not available before to these communities.
Pictures of everybody's sweethearts.
Hot commodities.
Yeah.
What's really interesting to me is these communities in particular were uniquely, like, set up to be susceptible to this kind of cargo cult phenomenon, because a lot of their societies revolved around kind of a big man theory, where whoever had the most resources, not super unique, but whoever had the most resources could then give those resources to other people in the community, and they would thus owe that guy, right?
Oh, yeah. Like mobster.
Like mobster style, kind of
Yeah.
like we do here, the
Right,
oligarch
yeah.
theory, if you will.
Yeah. Like the Sopranos.
Yeah, or like Russia.
Right.
And so when these material goods appeared, it was a really clear parallel between what these societies were already built to appreciate and to value. Who has the most stuff? How good's your stuff? And the person who has the most stuff is the one that we need to look up to.
Yeah.
And it was just like vast quantities that were given out to the islanders, who were often guides or hosts, or sometimes even conscripted into the military. And then when the armed forces left, these people were standing around like, well, when is this coming back? And a lot of the times they weren't given any sort of support afterwards. So what you find is some of them resorted to forming homegrown religions in an attempt to get them to come back.
Get the whiteys to come back?
Well, and specifically the cargo.
Oh.
Get the stuff to come back. What the stuff?
Because they didn't make the connection that the stuff was coming from the soldiers?
Well, that's where the exploitative stuff comes back, right?
Okay.
Because people want stuff. You know me.
Well, I mean, yeah, you do. I don't.
I love stuff.
I hate stuff.
You love stuff.
I mean,
Look around.
no, I know that.
Look at all your stuff.
There's only certain stuff that I like.
And there's certain stuff that these people liked as well, that were
Audio
valuable.
recording equipment
Yeah.
and motorcycles.
And motorcycles. Exactly. And some of it was handed out to get compliance from the locals. Like if I give you medicine, you'll have to support us and make sure we're given all the best land and resources and access to guides and stuff, and don't give it to the Japs.
Yeah.
We'll give you the Coca-Cola. I use Coca-Cola
Sponsored
as an
by
example.
Coca-Cola.
For real. Yeah. Well, I use Coca-Cola as an example because there's still so much Coca-Cola that was dropped off in these areas that it's like embedded in some of the coral reefs around these islands still.
Oh, really?
Like,
Is it
full
sprouting
bottles.
trees and then the Coke bottles come?
That's actually how you get bottles of Coca-Cola. The glass bottle ones,
Oh,
they
yeah.
only grow it in Mexico now.
Right.
That's why it's the special Mexican kind.
Has the label printed on it.
And when it's first budding off, it's just the bottle cap.
Hilarious. Oh, those little gummy ones?
Yeah.
Those little gummy candies?
The gummy ones. Like what is it? The Harbro? What's the gummy company?
It's
Hasbro
something-
is not
It's not
the-
that, but
no.
it's something like, I know what you're talking about.
Habbo Hotel?
It's the little bear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
What were we talking about?
we're talking about cargo cults. So when the military abandoned these air bases, charismatic individuals, leaders of cults, if you will, among the populations, would explain that the cargo.
And these are natives.
These are natives,
Okay,
part of the local communities.
The people responsible for the exploitation are natives of that area that were just like, oh, I know how I can take advantage of people. Mm-hmm. This is what we're talking about.
And again, like, it's up in the air whether or not these people really believe this stuff, or if it kind of became a mix of a convenient way to control people, and also there might be something to this, because like most blendings of modern, or I shouldn't say modern, of a technologically advanced culture and a not technologically advanced culture, you're going to take elements of what works for you
Yeah.
from the indigenous culture
Yeah.
and from the introducing culture. Kind
Right.
of like how a lot of indigenous cultural practices in South America were co-adopted by the Spaniards to help make the adoption of Catholicism more palatable,
yeah.
So you'll see, or even like Christmas, like the trees in the house and the gifts and all the candles and stuff like that. None of that was, none of that's to do with Jesus. Like,
Right, yeah.
It just makes it easier to go down.
Yeah.
And similarly, there were already kind of ancestor worships or deity worships in place, practices in place that these charismatic individuals were able to utilize to say that if we just worship and have the right rituals, then we can get these ancestors or these deities to bring this cargo back. And the way that it manifested is so fucking crazy. So you find some of these communities built airstrips, like built their own airstrips,
Yeah.
trying to tempt planes to come back down and
Oh, like
drop off.
like a Field of Dreams kind of thing. If you build it, they will come.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
Oh, I made a baseball movie reference that you got.
Uh-huh.
Well done. Is it because Kevin Costner's in it?
Yeah. And also, weirdly, Field of Dreams has come up on my like Reddit doom scrolling like 5 times
That's
this
a
week.
good movie.
The universe is telling me something.
Ray Liotta is in it. And he's just Ray Liotta.
But
Just
doesn't Ray
stern
Liotta always
and-
look like he's wearing eyeliner? Did he die?
He did. I know.
But doesn't he though? Didn't he
Yeah,
always
he
look
does.
like he was wearing a little bit of eyeliner?
Yeah.
Rip.
We should watch that after this.
Yeah. That should be the tagline to this episode.
Is Ray Liotta wearing eyeliner?
If we build it, they will come. Or what is it? Is that
If
what
we
it is?
build it, Ray Liotta will come.
Ray Liotta will come. That's the tagline. So they would promise, like if we build this airstrip, if we build like control towers, you'd find communities who would make headphones out of coconut shells.
Oh, I saw that episode of Gilligan's Island too.
Yep. They would, and still do in some of these communities that still have practicing cargo cults, have like fake military drills where they would all march in step and raise up an American flag and salute
actual
to it.
American flag?
Yeah. In the case of the John Frum cult, they'd come up with individuals that have their own backstories behind them. In this case, John Frum is an invented white guy from America who came with cargo, and he will return someday, like Jesus, to bring more cargo. One of the tribal leaders of this John Frum cult in Vanuatu was like, he's going to bring us jeeps. He's going to bring us outboard motors for our village boats.
That sounds sick. I want to be part of that cargo cult. I want jeeps and outboard motors.
They do parade drills with wooden rifles with like little coconut shell bayonets on them.
How hilarious would that be if the whole cult was just a bunch of broy dudes who were into off-roading jeeps and stuff?
And boats.
Yeah.
You just get there, it's a bunch of like Chads and
Right. With like short
Bradens.
haircuts and like those
Wraparounds.
wraparound sunglasses.
This is a PSA to anyone listening. If you wear wraparound sunglasses, specifically if you wear them on the back of your head, go on Git.
Stop listening.
Stop.
No,
now.
just kidding. Keep listening.
They'd light signal fires and torches to light up the runways, quote unquote, and lighthouses. They'd build life-size replicas of airplanes out of straw. And all in an effort to attract more airplanes to come down. That they were the only beings that were powerful enough to produce the kind of riches that they saw during wartime. And that just got kind of snatched away. Now, what's really interesting is the fact that it continued past World War II, right? Like, for the most part, a lot of these cults dropped off after they were like, okay, they ain't coming back.
Yeah.
But a lot of them continued. And you might
like
ask,
this one still continues, this Christianity one.
well, yeah, right? Exactly.
How many years has it been?
At least 2000. In the year 2000. But some of them kept going, and the argument for why has a lot to do with colonialism. It's after and a little bit before, of course, the war. Who comes in? Missionaries.
Oh, yeah.
And what do the missionaries want to do?
They want to convert everybody.
Hell yeah. And, obviously there's some downsides to that.
They're like, I wanted a Jeep, and all I got was this stupid Bible.
Put that on a shirt. You should put that on your Jeep. But truly, like, with colonialism comes a lot of racism, comes a lot of the breakdown of cultural traditions, and the separation of families. Kids get taken away and put into schools where they get indoctrinated. And there's understandably a lot of pushback from these local communities. And that's where these cargo cults kind of came back in. They were used then by these charismatic individuals, or the descendants or the kids of these charismatic individuals in some cases, as a means of combating colonialism, where they'd say, John Frum America doesn't want us to convert to Christianity. He wants us to stick to our customs.
Yeah.
And So we're going to have to push back against this. And as long as we keep worshiping John, he's going to come back one day and take care of us. We can ignore Jesus and just keep worshiping John. John wants us to keep drinking our kava root and going up to the volcano and having our spirit visions. And he'll be back one day to take care of us. We just got to keep doing our drills. Drill,
you
baby,
want that
drill.
outboard motor, or don't you?
Or don't ya?
So, okay, I'm confused a little bit.
Give it to me.
Because it sounds like cargo cults might sort of be the antidote for that that missionary colonialism, right? If it's sort of pushing that away and preserving whatever culture they had developed, then that might be a good thing, right?
It could be. I'll give you an example of where it kind of went wrong. There was a cultural leader. His name is Yali. He's kind of like Seal or,
I know
Bono.
Yali.
Yeah, you know Yali.
Yeah.
He's just known by the one name, Yali. Papua New Guinea in the 1940s. Australia kind of had dominance over that region. It's where a lot of like Aboriginal Indigenous Australians kind of are connected to Papua New Guinea. And he was conscripted into Australian service to essentially be a link between the Indigenous people and kind of get them on board. Like, get everybody on board, okay? So he, went into Australian society, was introduced to museums and zoos, and was like, what the fuck is all of this? This is crazy. Why are people keeping animals in the zoo if they think that they're descended from monkeys? But then some of them think they're descended from this Adam and Eve person. So it was all very confusing for him. But what he took away from it was like, these missionary people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They're just making shit up. Even these European people don't believe all this stuff. Like, they believe all kinds of random stuff, but they don't even take the monkey thing seriously because they keep the monkeys in the zoo. What does it all mean? So what he took away from that was like, we just got to lean into this cargo cult stuff. That's what we got to do. So when he goes back to Papua New Guinea, he starts making speeches about, you guys gotta get with the program, gotta lean in. We're gonna sit tight with these Australians, and they're gonna take care of us. They're gonna bring us cargo one day. And he starts using it to his advantage, drafting laws for society. He took it as confirmation that he could start pushing back against the missions. Sounds okay so far, right? Like, fuck the missions. Fuck the missionaries. Not literally, but he took it literally. Yeah.
No, he fucked the missionaries?
Yeah, but against their will.
Oh, no.
Oh, and I just said that we were going to have... Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You can't escape it.
No.
Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, it always comes back to it.
I know. Everybody,
Truly,
and
though.
there was comments like, hey, are you going to talk about rape again? And I was like, no, I promise.
No, I promise.
I'm just kidding. I didn't promise that because I knew that
You
I
can't
wouldn't
promise
be able
that.
to do that.
No, now we're talking about cargo cults.
Especially when we're talking about cargo cults.
So he basically led a pagan revival. Despite his exposure to Western society, he was like, that's all bullshit. They don't even believe it. So we might as well just take care of our own here. But it's really hard to get a community on board with a new way of life unless you have some sort of framework to get them all behind. So he kind of became like a figurehead for another cargo cult and was like, you guys follow me, they're going to give us stuff. Which is, it is still a cargo cult. It's not building airstrips, but it's saying, if you work with me, if you follow me, then we're going to get stuff.
Okay.
Which is, it still falls under the same category.
Sure, yeah.
And
plus he was wearing cargo shorts when he said that.
Well, what's interesting about it is in the field of study, cargo is like its own little key term now. So there's like cargo knowledge, opening the road to cargo, cargo profits, and And yeah, they all wear the shorts. Yeah. It's where they keep all their audacity in those extra pockets. So he saw like all of Western civilization as proof that, you know, people can be exploited. You just need a framework to get them there.
That's really funny that somebody would go into Western culture uneducated about it and see all the hypocrisy of it and be like, fuck that, and go hard the other way.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause I've thought about that too. Like, a lot of people have said, like, what if, imagine an alien comes down here and just like observes for a day. What would they think of all this? And it's silly.
Yeah.
It's so silly. And you have an example of that without meeting an alien.
Just the hypocrisy of it was what really stood out to him.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, instead of leading his community to more fair treaties or more ethical working rights or whatever, he just exploited them as well. A really like weird segue from that. Eventually, it got so heinous, the shit that he was doing. He had his like little mob of boogeymen hunt down missionary wives and rape them, and there it is. And
my goodness.
Eventually he was imprisoned by Australian authorities, and his cargo cult members sent what they called flower girls to him to collect his semen in water bottles to take back to the community. So that his line could live on.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Fun fact. But it's fascinating because John Frum is just one example, but is very much always been positioned as a white-skinned ally in the fight against colonialism. And if you just stay true and keep the faith, then you'll get your comeuppance, good or bad. You want to hear about some other fun cargo cults?
All right. As long as it's not anything to do with flower girls or.
There's another one on Vanuatu called Tom Navy. The Tom Navy cargo cult.
Are all these names going to be funny like that?
Kind of, yeah. There still is one actually. That
Tom Navy. That's fucking
that
hilarious.
worships the now deceased Prince Philip.
What? Did he know this?
Yes.
He was probably like, yes.
This okay.
Finally, my own kingdom.
At last. Suck it, Lizzie. Dude, this one is particularly...
Look at that, Lilibet. They love me.
This shit is particularly fucking crazy to me. So, this cargo cult community saw how Queen Elizabeth was venerated, you know, as being like the imperial head of state. And so when the queen and her consort came to visit, they got to kind of see him from afar, and they were like, that guy, because, you know, fuck women, right?
That guy.
He's the one.
He looks pointy.
Pointy means stab, stab means power.
Right.
He's the one. So they had a picture of him that they would use as part of their worshiping services. He found out about it, sent them another picture.
No way.
Uh-huh.
Fucking Philip.
So then they sent him.
He was like, no, here's a better one.
Yeah.
And
No,
they're
it
like,
gets
yep,
better.
that's our mofo.
It gets better.
We picked a good one.
So they send him a ceremonial object. I can't remember what it was. I think it was like a carved club or like a spear or something like that. And so they sent that to him, and he took a picture with it and sent that picture back.
No fucking way.
And then a delegation, if you will, of those community members went to the UK, met with him.
What? On like an official royal visit?
They took a picture together, and then so now they got three. They got three pictures.
Oh man.
You're like a holy trinity triptych thing.
That guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
such a delicate ego.
Theoretically, his worship will now pass to Charles, but probably not.
No, because they're gonna take one look at Charles and be like, "Ooh,
This guy, he ain't pointy. Look at
no,
them
look
fingers.
at those fingers." There's nothing pointy about him.
So fucked.
His son, though, we'll wait for his son.
Yeah.
We see the resemblance there.
William's pointy as fuck.
I mean, he kind of look at him.
Look at him. Look at him.
He doesn't look as what's the word? I'm trying to be nice here.
Well, to be fair, we did look at some pretty unflattering pictures.
Yeah, and he was like a zombie.
Yeah, he's
that point.
old at the end.
But you can see there's a resemblance there.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Between
Yeah.
William and Philip.
Absolutely. And between Harry and Philip, too. But at the end there, Philip was looking like eyeballs floating in soup.
Yeah, like Skeletor.
Send him another picture. Yeah. So there's all kinds. They all had their different ways of doing things. The image of giant planes made out of straw and airstrips and offices. It almost evokes like in North Korea, how they have like the fake cities close to the border that are just like there to kind of for show.
Right.
They're hoping to gain a different kind of material good.
Yeah.
You know, in this case, it's like reputation or like a valid source of their power, you know.
Yeah.
But in this case, they're really hoping to win back the givers of the cargo.
Fucking crazy. Do you have any, in your research, do you have any pictures of any of that stuff?
Oh, yes.
Because that would be cool to
Throw in the show notes and
link
stuff.
link up for Paul to see.
Yeah. for Paul.
Just for and nobody else look. This is just for Paul.
Don't look.
We should put another special one for Joe too.
Sweet Joe.
Yeah.
This one's for you.
If we can find that picture that Philip sent back of him holding the spear or whatever, and we'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
That will be just for Joe. Nobody look.
Nobody look at that. There'll be a link and it'll be password protected. I'm just gonna send
I don't
that
know if I
password
can figure
to
out
Joe.
how to do that. I'm just gonna ask that everybody work off the honor system, and if this is Joe's note, don't open it
For
unless
Joe's
your name
eyes
is
only.
Joe.
Joe's eyes only.
And same for Paul.
I do want to say that the anthropological community, and I'm going to say it at the end, has distanced itself from the term cargo cult in recent years because it's seen as being kind of reductive because a lot of these communities used this framework as a way to combat the colonial forces that were taking over their communities. And to call them a cult and specifically to focus on the cargo aspect of the cargo cults is to kind of put the emphasis on them being backwards or being so ignorant that they don't understand where things come from. Although that was a huge factor in it, is just like literally not being able to comprehend the scale of industrialism that's required to make all that shit.
Right. Yeah.
But it is putting or continuing to put a spin on things that doesn't put those communities in a very flattering light, right? So that term is problematic because it is kind of pejorative. But the actual goal, anthropologists say, is it's not so much obtaining material goods as creating and renewing social relationships under threat. Which is kind of what religion is, you know?
It is.
Yeah. Yeah. one of my favorite things that I saw from an interview that this journalist did when he went to visit the John Frum cult, like the biggest John Frum cult in Vanuatu. I think this was in like the 60s. This would have been in like the 90s. So he was talking to the chief and was like, it's been 60 years, you know, in this case now like 80 years since the end of the war. Like, clearly John's not coming back, you know. Why do you still believe that he's going to bring you your outboard motor? And he's like, well, you motherfuckers are still waiting for Jesus.
Yeah.
It's been 2,000 years.
Checkmate, bitches.
Checkmate. Yeah.
Christmas is a cargo cult.
Christmas is
Christmas
a cargo cult.
Yeah, because we
Put out the cookies?
we have to be good all year, or Santa's not going to bring us nothing,
Shit.
right?
Maybe that should be the tagline. Christmas, the ultimate cargo cult. Wow. Yeah. Damn. True facts.
Well, because like the way you said that, just put that together for me.
Santa, you GI motherfucker. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's cargo cults pretty much.
That's really cool. I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck.
And now you know.
Yeah. Let's go start our own cargo cult.
What should we build so that they'll come?
Giant cargo shorts. Because it just fits, you know what I mean? The guy that wears cargo shorts is a guy that wants a Jeep to come down from the sky, outboard motors,
Coca-Cola.
and Coca-Cola. That's red-blooded American.
Home of the free.
An Old Navy t-shirt.
An Old Navy. And wraparound sunglasses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The American flag Old Navy. You remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That said Old Navy underneath.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Stiff.
we better get to work.
Let's get on it.
We got to make them big.
We gotta make them big for all of our audacity to fit inside.
Exactly.
And our huge penises.
Speak for yourself.
I am. Loud and proud. I call it Old Glory.
Wow,
Yeah.
kid. That was pretty cool. Thank you.
Yeah, a little shorty.
Yeah.
That's also what I call it. That's it.
All right. Goodbye.
Goodbye.